What's going on, guys? It's Mike for simracing 604. Welcome back to Assetto Corsa Competizione. You may have noticed if you follow AC on Twitter that they've been sharing a lot of user-generated screenshots, and there's some fantastic ones out there. So it led me to dig a little deeper into how to take better screenshots in ACC, and I thought I would share that knowledge with you. So if you look at some of my screenshots from 2019 versus some screenshots that I've taken so far this year, I mean, it's just night and day. So I wanted to, again, share that knowledge with you and just let you know some handy shortcut keys for taking better screenshots in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Let's dive into it. Alright guys, so the first two things I like to think about when I'm taking a screenshot is subject and setting. In this case, the subject being the car. It's whatever your favorite car is. Red cars, blue cars tend to pop more, but it doesn't have to be that, of course. I'm a fan of McLaren, so I'm going to shoot the 720S here. And then setting, not only the track, but also where on the track, and also the time of day, and also the angle. So that's what I'm kind of thinking about. In this case, I want to shoot the Donington Park sign with my McLaren 720S in the foreground. So we're on board here. This is standard gameplay. I could press F7, and now I have Control F1. Brings me back to center, but F7, I can move the mouse left and right here and scroll around. And if I use my arrow keys, I can actually move the camera forward. I can use the mouse again to move the camera around. And you may have seen this before, and you're going so slow, and it's like, where I want to get different places on the track, but this takes forever. So what you can actually do in this case is use your mouse scroll wheel, and if I push the scroll wheel forward or back, it's going to change the speed of the camera. So I push it, scroll up, and my camera moves faster. Scroll down and it slows down. See, I've got it extreme here, and then I kind of lost my spot. But anyway, that's scrolling up, and then your arrow keys will move your camera around faster. So F1 to get back, and then F7 brings you back to the free cam. And we'll get into the other type of free cam a little bit later in the video, but right now I just want to find my spot. So in this case, again, Donington Park, you see that welcome to Donington Park sign. That looks very cool. So that is what I want to shoot. So I want to get my McLaren 720S kind of in the left 2/3 of this screen right here, and have the Donington Park sign in the background. Unfortunately, I don't believe there's any keys to move the camera up or down. So if you want to move down, you just gotta point it at the road surface and move forward in that direction. You can see I got the sun in the background. It'd be nice if the sun was a little bit lower, but anyway, if we get the McLaren in the left 2/3 there with the welcome to Donington Park sign, and the sun up above, or sun a little bit lower on the horizon ideally, that's a pretty good setting there. So that, again, going back to settings, so not only the track, but where on the track, and time of day, and the angle of the car. Generally low, looking at the car kind of a foot or two off the ground is a very cool, very what would you say, cinematic kind of angle. So that's kind of what I'm going to go for here, guys. So that's generally the angle I'll go for. So what I'm going to do here is run a hot lap, and then we'll go into replay mode and go through this again, and then we'll try and capture a shot. Alright guys, so back pretty much where I left you, but we've actually done one full lap. So what we can do now is go into replay and then start thinking about our shot. So hopefully we got the angle right. We can get the sun. I advanced the time. It's 7 p.m. at Donington, so 1900 hours. And looking at TV cams here, and hopefully we got the sun angle, or the sun elevation, correct, and we'll get that welcome to Donington sign off to the left there. You can't see it from this TV angle, but maybe if we go to a different camera, not quite. Doesn't look like we'll be able to see it. It's in the top right hand corner there. So that's generally where we want to be on the track, but of course this angle, not great. So let's go ahead and run this back. And then, of course, F1 brings you on board. F7 gives you the free cam. And we're going to pull back and get a more cinematic angle here. So I generally find that straight on at like perfectly perpendicular to the car, like a side profile, can look good, but a little bit of angle is better. And then straight behind or straight in front looks goofy. You would never really get that shot because, of course, cameramen can't be on the track looking, well, they could be, I guess, theoretically, if they had a good zoom, but generally you won't see dead on or dead behind shots too often. It's more often an angle and we have to sort of keep that in mind. It looks a little bit more realistic if it's off to the side a bit. So there's the shot. It's looking pretty good there. And something important to note here, we want this to be an action shot. So something to think about is we want motion blur enabled, and that's critical. So not only do you want a high graphics setting, but you also want that motion blur enabled. So what I'm going to do here is just go into my options video, and I've created a number of presets here. You can create your own presets. When it's replay, it generally doesn't tax the CPU and GPU as much, so I've created a maxed out setting, so it's pretty much everything my GPU can handle. And then if we scroll all the way to the bottom here, looking for motion blur, and you make sure that is on. So there's 3 settings: disabled, enabled, and then external cams only. And that's what you want. Well, either of those, either enabled or on external cams at least. So then it looks like our camera settings should be, or our graphic settings rather, should be good for motion blur. So of course, motion blur captures the car moving relative to objects around the track. It really gives you an awesome sense of speed, and you really want that, of course, when you're shooting cars. So very important to have that turned on if we're going to shoot cinematic action shots. It just kind of ties it together, because if you've seen any shots where nothing is moving, it just like a static shot, like the shutter speed was incredibly fast, it just looks kind of unnatural. So I like to have a little bit of motion blur, and it really helps things. So again, let's go back here. We'll set our shot up, F7, getting the right angle here, and you'll notice that the car kind of looks distorted. So just let me get the angle right here, and that kind of looks funny. It looks like the car's got a wider butt and narrow in the front, which it probably does to some degree, but not quite like this. So what we can do is either pause or running, click the scroll wheel on your mouse, and what that's going to do is bring up the Cinematic HUD. And then there's all levels of control here. And I don't claim to be a photography expert, but one thing we can definitely do here that's easy is change the field of view. I generally find that 30 to 40 degrees is a fairly realistic. It doesn't distort things too bad, so that's where I like to set it. If you go into depth of field, there's f-stop and all different controls. Again, I'm not an expert. I won't teach you how to do this, but just know that if you mouse over, you can left click and drag and change those values. And that's going to affect how much is in focus and where your focus is. And yeah, so I won't claim to be an expert, but you can experiment with that and try different focus levels, and just see if it helps your picture at all. If not, you can always revert it back to the default. Let's go ahead and turn this f-stop up, so hopefully some of the images in the background, or some of the objects in the background, will be a little bit more blurry with the focus then on the car. So scroll wheel click again closes that cinematic HUD, then we pull back again, and as you can see, it looks far less distorted. So we should be in a better position to take shots of our car. So again, we want that sort of left 2/3 of the image, or sorry, the car to occupy the left 2/3 of the image. So I'm just gonna set this up a bit better, going down here. That's a pretty decent angle there. So let's run this and see what happens, and I'll probably take some shots along the way as well. Mouse cursor to the top right hand corner makes it disappear, and then when you're ready, F8 is the in-game screenshots button, or you can press F12, and that is the Steam screenshot button. I like the Steam screenshot button a lot better, if I'm being honest. I find that it's just better for motion blur. So F12, and it will save that to your Steam desktop, and then when you exit out, that will actually show up in your Steam home screen. Alright, so we've taken a couple shots here. Let's have a look at what we captured. Alright, so decent shots, not my favorite. It just kind of looked out of place to me, but I think it's a huge improvement versus my screenshots from a couple years ago. That motion blur really helps. So what I've done here is run a race, so I want to give some context to that motion. So Replay obviously gets the field of GT3 cars. Again, center scroll wheel. Let's or click the scroll wheel. Let's go ahead and change the field of view to the correct one, or down to 35. Seems to be a pretty decent number. So, following our car here, we can still use our arrow keys and change the angle. And again, scroll wheel does change the speed at which the camera moves. I've scrolled too much, now I can't move my camera, so just need to scroll up a bit, and then I will have control again over that camera. So taking screenshots here, light is beautiful, we're chasing that Lambo, everything looks cool here. So we're setting up for our shot. Might as well take a couple snaps on the way. Sometimes even moving relative to a curb is a cool looking shot, just on a straightaway even. And then we're coming into our spot right here. So taking a shot there, again F12 to save your screenshot. And that was pretty cool. So I think overall that's the capture, but let me just not blast you guys with any more in-game audio. Sorry about that. So that was cool. The only thing that I would change probably is, of course, we did not have the sun. So let's go back and try and frame this a little bit better. Thankfully, it kept the FOV setting, so I don't need to adjust that this time. So pulling back, let's get a good angle on our McLaren. Of course, we pulled out a little bit more. And by the way, if your camera is acting funky, if it's moving every time you move your mouse, just click once on the screen and it should go back to normal. So yeah, it's looking like we got everything set up decently here. Gonna pull back a little bit, hopefully get more of that sign. And we'll move down here. Let's get right into the dirt. Alright, so decent framing of our shot here. Mouse up to the top right hand corner. And as we go around the corner here, let's take a snap. Again, pull back so we can see the Donington sign. The problem is we couldn't see the sun. So let's try this again. Now, to move down or up, again, there's no hotkeys, so you just have to point yourself at the road surface and go down until you become one with the road surface, and then let's go up. Yeah, that's better. So let's move, let's use the rule of thirds here and try and keep that McLaren about a third of the way to the left and a third of the way up. And then let's run this, see what it looks like. And again, there's no real limit here, guys. If you see something that might be interesting, like the light is beautiful, the subject is beautiful, as you're driving around the course here, there's no reason why you shouldn't be taking a lot of shots. So don't be afraid to use your F12 key. And then when you get into Steam, your screenshots will be waiting for you. Just click on one, right click, and then you can show it on the disc. So let's see. I took a shot there, but missed the apex, so that's not going to be great. But again, even a straightaway can be nice. You see that sky looks gorgeous. The light is gorgeous. So once we get close to the curb here, I will take a screenshot. So that should be pretty cool, moving relative to that curb. But again, we're coming up to what we intended to shoot here. Should be at, oh, we even got the airplane going. That's cool. So as I come around the corner, should be able to see the sun and the Donington sign. And yeah, hopefully that turned out. But if not, you can just run it back and keep replaying. And we should have a little bit of motion blur with that, so I think it will look all right. So that's pretty much it. But again, I mentioned that there's a second type of free cam. So first and foremost, let's have a look at those shots, and then we'll talk about the other type of free cam. Alright guys, so final point here. I mentioned there was two types of free cams. F7, and there is also a Ctrl+F7. So what that does is allows you to have an untethered free cam. So I'm basically going to try and shoot that same shot again, this time in hot lap mode, but with the untethered free cam. So as you can see, we're right about where we want to be. It's not going to be an ideal shot because it's backlit. I want to shoot the front of the car this time, but anyway. So that's basically what I'm going for. So I went nice and slow around that corner, and then we can go into replay mode. And then as we're driving here, F7, you already know that. But what happens if you press Ctrl+F7? The car shoots off into the distance because you're now using free cam. Same controls as before, arrow keys to move you around, scroll wheel to change the speed, and your mouse will move the camera. But again, that's an untethered free cam. So Ctrl+F7 is the untethered. So we're scrolling ahead here, get right about where we want. And let's go ahead and get into that free cam mode. So F7 and Ctrl+F7 brings up the untethered. And let's move and see if we can frame up a decent shot here. Again, scroll wheel to move a little bit faster. And decent shot there. Let's change our field of view as we do. Okay, and then let's try and frame this up a little bit. That's not great. It's tough to find the right angle. I mean, I don't really want that much sun, but let's see what we can do here. Again, trying to capture that Welcome to Donington sign. Too far back here, but let's see what we can get. Yeah, it's kind of a lot. It's not great. So if we play now, see, we're not moving with the car anymore. We're stationary. I don't like it. That's a lot of sun. That's a lot of orange. The car is orange. The sun is giving everything a yellow-orange hue. So let's try this. That's a bit better of an angle. So we got the sun. Got the Welcome to Donington Park sign. I'd like to see a little bit more of the car. Let's see here. So it's decently framed. We're losing the sun now as we go in. I'd like to get a little bit closer to the car. Okay, so that's decent there. It'd be nice to go down just a little bit. So I'm going to point myself at that grass. Forward, forward, forward just a little bit. And then turn up. We should be able to see the Welcome to Donington Park sign and the sun. Again, still very orange, but it is what it is. So the car is going to be moving comparatively slow. But what we can do is back things up a bit and run the camera. And again, that free cam won't move with the car, so we just got to wait for it to come into focus. And when it does, we will just F12 that bad boy and save it to Steam. And because it's moving relative to the camera, the car will actually be blurred instead of the track and trackside objects being blurred this time. So that is pretty much it, guys. So I'll just try another shot here. Let's see, where does the car come into focus? Oh, it's not playing. That would help. So where does it come in? Okay, right around there. So let's try this again. Again, mouse to the top right, so it's hidden. Whoops, could have missed it. Let's go back, listen for that sound, and then when it comes across the screen, any old second, we take the shot. And hopefully that turned out okay, and we can again go back to Steam after we exit out of the game and just check on those. So guys, that is pretty much it. So just in summary, I like to think about subject and setting. So the subject obviously is the car. There's nothing too mind-blowing about that. Red and blue cars tend to pop more. The exotics like the Lambos, Ferraris tend to really be eye-catching. Motion blur helps, and remember to have that enabled in your video settings. And then F7 is the tethered free cam, Ctrl+F7 is the untethered free cam. Scroll wheel click brings up the cinematic HUD, and again, I didn't get into that. I'm no photography expert, just learned a few tricks that I wanted to share. So you can use that cinematic HUD and really, make your pictures pop if you wish. But hopefully this helps you guys, and if you have your own photography tricks, please feel free to drop a comment below. Let me know exactly what you do to take great shots. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.